So will those national weights ever be raised above 11 stone 10, Phil? You were sort of very much meandering and waffling on without really telling the truth, which is that you want to compress it to get the good horses in.
Well, actually, 11 stone 10 hasn't been a winner of it, carrying 11 stone 10 for 40 years.
Well, there's been 11 stone 9.
And there's been an 11 stone 9. So the record of horses carrying those weights is not great. So why would we want to increase it? And plus the fact that we've been in the situation the last few years, last 5 or 6 years, with it being 11-10, even though it's only a 24-pound range, everything's been in the handicap. So why do we want to extend it just to make horses carry more weight? Because if we extend it at the top end to 11, 12 or 12 stone, then the horse that's number 40 in the race is going to carry 2 or 4 pound more as well. What's the point?
Aren't you turning the Grand National into just a conditions race, really?
Well, I don't think the owners and trainers say that when they go to the weights lunch and complain about the weights that they've been given. They don't see it as a conditions race at all.
Jonathan has been on. Weight for age, Phil, we mentioned. Although I did have that very good point, but I'll come back to the very good point. Jonathan says, what about 3 odds on the flat? Horse I've got a leg in had to give £8 to a horse the other day. In 30 days' time, they'll race off scratch.
That's not true.
So he doesn't know his own horse?
No, he doesn't know the weight for age scale.
He says maybe a sliding scale as the 3-year-olds approach 4.
There is a sliding scale.
Right.
And what will happen in the end of the year, it doesn't go from 8 to 0, right? Depending on the distance. It only ever goes down by a pound.
Well, you mean that some distances it does go for
it only goes down by a pound per half month, right, all the way through the season. So it can't go from 8 now to 0 in, a month's time. It'll go to 6 or 5 or 7. It won't go to 0, because that's not how the weight for age scale works.
So if the 3-year-olds are running against 4-year-olds,
if they're getting 8
the turn of the year, it's 4-year-olds against 5-year-olds. There's still a weight for age allowance.
But the 4-year, they take their weight for age as they become 4-year-olds. They take their weight for age, whatever it is, with them. It just drops by a pound or 2.
So 5-year-olds have to give 4-year-olds weight?
Correct.
Okay.
In the early part of the season, over long distances.
Okay. Let's get back to this absolutely crucial point, which I think I'm the only person other than this viewer who is interested in. But I do absolutely 1,000,000% think it should happen, and it should happen today. And he's just saying very, very sensibly, this is Richard again, will the Grand National ever be upgraded from a Grade 3 category? How can you ask Gold Cup horses to run in the Hennessy and the National and call it a Grade 3? It is a Grade 1 handicap. It should be described as a Grade 1 handicap, and you should change it tomorrow. It would also help you. How can you tell the man in the street that Conagry is running in a ridiculous low-grade Grade 3? He's running in Grade 1 company. He should be given Grade 1 status. Doesn't really matter. Graded races over jumps is a waste of time unless you're a filly or a mare. But the top handicaps over jumps should be Grade 1 handicaps. The Grand National should be a Grade 1. The Hennessy should be a Grade 1, because you want to have Gold Cup horses in there, and they are Grade 1 horses.
So on the flat in Grade 1s, do they all carry different weights?
I'm sorry?
On the flat in Grade 1s, do they all carry different weights?
Well, they do in the Melbourne Cup, yeah.
In Britain, in Britain, do they all carry different weights?
I have no idea. I haven't studied it.
Answer no. Why should it be this? Why should it be different jumping?
Because it should happen on the flat as well. Well, I can't think of a handicap on the flat that is worthy of the status that we're talking about. I cannot think of any flat handicap that Frankel would have run in. If there is one, forgive me, Phil, but on the basis there isn't, I don't think you're comparing like with like. And therefore, just because it doesn't happen on the flat, I think is irrelevant. You've tried to pull something out the hat there that actually, when you think about it, is a ridiculous statement to make. What handicap would Frankel have run in?
We have a system, rightly or wrongly, where level weight championship races are Grade 1s.
Yeah.
We have a system where handicaps are Grade 3s. It works absolutely fine.
Well, it doesn't, does it?
Does it really matter? That's the system. Does it matter?
Well, all I can say is, from a publicity point of view, you're very lucky that people don't go around saying, "Are you going to watch the Grade 3 National next weekend?"
No, they say, no, we're going to watch the Cranberry Grand National, and that's what they're interested in, the fact that it's the Grand National. I don't think it's...
The Grade 3 Hennessy?
I don't think...
Not very good, is it? Grade 3, isn't there something better than that to watch?
So you think that should be a Grade 1 as well?
Absolutely it should, because it attracts Gold Cup horses. Of course it should be Grade 1. They're Grade 1 horses.
Which one?
The top weights, Phil. The ones that you pump up the top that you want in there.
Which Gold Cup horse did it attract this year?
Did you not see Safa Darur was one of the leading contenders for the Gold Cup? Did you not see Smad Place is now about 4/5 favourite for the Gold Cup?
But they ran in the race off marks of 163 and
one man
and 155. They ran in the race off 163 and 155. That doesn't make it a Grade 1 race.
Oh, Phil, you are so wrong.
So so did you say there were only two people in the country who believe that, you and Nicola?
Well,
that's the reason why.
I think we're the only people who care about this sport enough. You have become blasé in your high tower at BHA, and you don't realise that the people want. These horses deserve the respect of at least Grade 1 category if they're going to run in the Grand National. The Grand National should be a Grade 1 handicap. What is different from the Melbourne Cup to the Grand National?
Next serious question, Matt.
Ashton Fishmongers, honestly, have tweeted in the Ashton Fishmongers. Agree with the weight for age. Weight for age for 3-year-olds. Too tough.
Too tough for 3-year-olds?
Yeah. Saying sliding scale.
Well, there is a sliding scale, and I don't agree it's too tough.
Yeah, okay. Let's go to some more questions. Mark says the Gold Cup will be a classic. Don Cossack, Vautour, Conegri. Hopefully the Don Cossack will win. I mean, if they all do turn up, all these potential horses, and they may not be potential by then, something may have won the King George by 20 lengths, and will have an outstanding horse. I mean, you are very taken by Q-Card now. He's had this breathing operation, Phil, which your organisation doesn't publish. Should they?
That's not my ball game.
I know, but if it was your ball game, should they?
I'm too busy handicapping.
Well, try doing a different ball game.
No.
Try if it was your ball game.
My ball game's.
You don't have opinion on
difficult enough. Doesn't. I'm sure a decision will be made at some point.
Okay, let's change the topic. As a handicapper, would it be quite nice to know if a horse had had a breathing operation?
It's irrelevant to us.
Right. So you've got it on, pulled up. It wins by 25 lengths. You wouldn't feel a sense of, oh, at least I didn't get it wrong because he's actually got new lungs.
How often does that happen?
You tell me.
I think you put in far too much faith in breathing operations. They don't all work, do they?
No, they don't. Great question from Mick, but you're never going to get an answer. Mick says, what does Phil think is the best handicap horse running today? You will not answer that question, but have you got one that you've chucked in today?
Not as far as I know.
No. By the end of the day, we'll definitely know. Right, let's see what else has come through on the old feed. Hurdlers, I know, isn't your category, but Faheen, do you know how much Faheen ran below form over in Ireland?
I can tell you.
That would be interesting for me, just again, personally.
Probably.
Here we go, Tracy.
6 or 7.
Agree. Grand National should be Grade 1. Tracy Harrison sounds like a perfectly reasonable woman. 3 of us.
3 of you.
The campaign is mounting.
It is.
If this was Joe Carroll's following in the following, everyone would be getting worried at the moment. There's 3 of us. 3 of us. I mean, joking apart, Phil, do you not feel that your Grand National, your race, this is the race you go to bed with every day of the week? Don't you feel that that race deserves Grade 1 status?
I think the system's perfect.
Of course, anyone who feels their system is perfect, you then begin to realise has become, well, ensconced in the system. Has Phil read James Willoughby's article about increasing the handicap scale by 25%? What does he think? Have you read it?
I haven't read it, but I'd be interested in it because he talks some very interesting theories.
Chubby says, how did you get into handicapping?
Some friends took me to the 1970 Derby, which was my 21st birthday, and showed me a rating system that he kept, and we backed 4 winners from 6 races, including Nijinsky, who won the Derby, and I was hooked and started keeping my own ratings the next day.
So what you realised is there were some very well handicapped horses out there that weren't being handicapped properly.
The system's different then than it is now.
Are you one of these, if you were a punter, would you keep a private handicapping book yourself? Do you think you should?
If I were a punter, would I do that? I would do, but my advice to punters is you have to specialise. There's so much racing now. I mean, when I started, I just only kept ratings on 2-year-olds. And then, after I'd done that for about 10 years, I wanted to do something different. So I concentrated purely on listed and pattern racing on the flat. So you absolutely have to specialise. Dermot
O'Callaghan, tremendous tweet, absolutely tremendous. He says you asked him about Faheen and then cut him off. Let him answer.
About £5. we've got him
£5.
We've got him 168 at Punchestown a couple of weeks ago, and he was, I think, 172, 173 at the end of last year.
I was delighted with Wicklow Bray's terrible performance in the Fighting Fifth, because for me it just showed that this whole race is worth tosh as form for the rest of the season. This race is a sham. Phil.
Another example of a horse having its first run of the season.
A sham.
You know, and you expect him to come on for the run.
Questions
and
are flooding
I
through.
know he will.
He absolutely, look at him, big Phil. How does Phil deal with horses being able to achieve low handicap marks in maidens? Those horses tucked away down the field, Phil. How do you deal with them?
Well, if we believe that a horse that's finished 11th could have finished 9th, then we'll treat it as the 9th horse and we'll assess it accordingly. And if we haven't got a clue about the horse, because sometimes you have a situation where you just haven't got sufficient information, we'll refuse to give it a rating after 3 runs.
The campaign is mounting, ladies and gentlemen. We have at least 5 members of our cult clan now. Ben says, of course, the Grand National should be a Grade 1. It's disappointing the handicapper thinks otherwise. I agree. I mean, look at him. Look, can we camera? Is it 2 or 3? Camera 3. Look, that is the face of disappointment. Disappointing. And Dean Adams as well. Nonsense that the National isn't Grade 1. Pure madness. It simply doesn't make sense. Well. Where on earth did anyone ever come up with the idea to judge a horse's ability on weight carried over how fast it can run?
How did everyone come up with the idea?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a jolly good idea.
Well,
It keeps me employed.
An intrepid punter still searching for horses. Salient. 16th of the 7th, 2014. Beaten 29 lengths. 8th of 11. Raised from 47 to 50. I can go on and on and on, although I am very sorry to bore you.
Well, I won't look that one up because it may well be the same reason. Because if we're talking about horses in those 40 bracket, they often run from out the handicap. So I suspect that Intrepid Punter might have been just slightly put away by the figure the horse ran off as opposed to the rating at the time. Yeah.
He's dissed you, Intrepid Punter. He clearly thinks you do not know your stuff. And it's fair to say Phil does. Phil, final couple of questions because I'm already over time. The horse you've most enjoyed seeing so far this season?
Q Card.
The horse you think could return to his best this season?
That's a much more difficult one.
Well, just quickly, because we're out of time.
Faheen.
Oh, what a...
He will.
Give me a high five.
He will return to his best. I know he will.
And a little respect. Oh, give me respect as well. There we go. Phil Smith, the handicapper. He thinks Faheen will be back. And just wait, just around the corner, the Grade 1 Grand National.